and welcome to the 9th episode of All of Our Appearances Have Been Canceled, the Not So Pageanty Pageant Interview Show. I'm Marilisa Beatty. I'm Mrs. Phoenixville, PA, 2020, and I'm here with Rachel Rakovan, Mrs. Pittsburgh, PA, 2020. I'm particularly excited for this episode because, Rachel, you happen to be the first guest that I'm talking to that I've never actually met before today. So I look forward to having this opportunity to get to know you better, and I look forward to getting to know you through the summer, and I'm excited to meet you in August, if not sooner. So Rachel, thank you again for joining. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to have you. So Rachel, what we know about you so far is that you are Mrs. Pittsburgh 2020. What else should we know about you? What do we need to know about Rachel?
Should I speak about myself in the third person?
If you want to. If that's your thing, you're welcome to.
No. I think that I am ambitious and I really pursue my dreams regardless of my circumstances. And I am a little bit different than I think that a lot of the other title holders, because of extreme poverty and of family of domestic violence and I just really horrible circumstances. And I was able to use my contaminated environment, where I lived next to a uranium enrichment corporation, as my motivation to become an environmental scientist and now currently a sustainability consultant. And also I have my own environmental television show. And I really believe that my life is an example for people that have come from nothing, almost like a Cinderella story. I think that that's something that's really important, and I want everyone to know, people that have suffered from domestic violence and sexual abuse, that they can overcome those circumstances. There are resources available for them, and I was a biology professor, an ecology professor, I'm a published research scientist. Regardless of those things that have happened to you, you are not your circumstances. You can rise above those. And then also there are so many resources that are available for people that have been in those types of situations, that they can, really achieve their dreams and don't put them off. That's another thing. So whenever you have a dream, continue to pursue it, because the time's going to pass anyway. That dream is not going to go away with age. So pursue whatever it is that your heart, calls you to do. And, I didn't really speak personally a lot about my own history a lot in the past, but then I started to feel a calling to do that. And some children have now come forward. There are lawsuits against their perpetrators. There's been so much that has come from me speaking out about my own story. So, I continue to use platforms like Mrs. Pennsylvania America to share my story and hopefully motivate others to pursue their dreams.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. And thank you for doing all of that and really sharing your story, because it is not an easy thing to do. I mean, it takes a lot of bravery. I think for some reason in our world, sometimes people are shamed for sharing their story, or they're kind of told like, oh, just be quiet and fall in line and, just get in with the rest of the ducks. But apparently you're not doing that. So that's wonderful. So thank you for that. All right, Rachel. So what we're going to do now is get into the interview portion. And in this part, I'm going to ask you just a bunch of really random questions. So the first category will be pageantry related things. So as it sounds, there will be questions related to pageantry, but not necessarily, competition style on stage questions. The next category is called Hey You, and they're really just questions about your opinions and your thoughts. And then we have the guest question that comes from someone besides myself. Then we have the category called Just Silliness, which is just, if you've seen the show before, it's it can be anything. And finally, we have the quick fire challenge that changes for every guest. So I'll tell you what that is when we get there. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, good. So starting with pageantry things. From the judge's perspective, what do you think is more detrimental to a contestant's score? If she trips on her gown, or if she trips over her words on the onstage question?
Absolutely the words. I had my sash fall off when I was Miss Allegheny County, Pennsylvania for America last year. and that
Oh,
was in the middle of my fitness bikini, or I'm sorry, we weren't doing a bikini; it was a one piece. But when I was in the middle of that, and that was a little embarrassing. But I don't know if that was a reason for my score, but I don't think it was a good thing. Obviously, the eloquence and being on point with all of your wording is, I think, the most important thing. But
hmm
then again, really, I think it's personality over anything. I don't
hmm
even think that it's falling down or, tripping up on your words. I think it's, are you genuine? Are you a real person? Do you really believe the things that you're saying? And are you here for the right reasons, or are you just here to stack another crown? So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Makes
and
sense.
I think that, it really just comes down to who's genuine and who has a good soul. And, I see some cattiness in the pageant world sometimes.
hmm
I actually am one to stand up against it pretty often. So
hmm
I would say, hey, no, you're wrong.
hmm
And, that won't always get you the, it'll always get you the right friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So,
Good. All
so
right. Good.
yeah, long answer.
Um,
Sorry.
no, it was good. And I mean, it makes sense. So it's not really about whether you trip or whether you trip over your words. It's kind of how you handle yourself otherwise. So
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. Um, so, I mean, this year, just around the world, everything is crazy and off kilter, obviously. It's affecting the pageant world as well. So, all of our pageants have been postponed. In some states, the pageants may even look and feel different, right? I think some states may not be able to have audiences, some states may require masks. But despite all that, I'm very curious to know what you're most looking forward to this year on pageant weekend.
I'm most looking forward to being on stage. I don't know. Sometimes whenever I get on stage, I just feel like, wow, I'm really supposed to be here. And I
Yeah.
really feel that in a lot of other places. I have to create the spaces usually, or seek out
Mhm.
those spaces. And in the pageant world, I feel like I am meant to be on the stage. And I don't feel that a lot of other places. So, yeah, I think that it's being on stage, really getting my message across and sharing what my platform is and how it is that I can help people. So, that's what this is really all about. It's about giving us a podium so we can speak our hearts.
For sure. When did you get into pageantry? Have you been in the industry for a while?
Wow. I was a Miss Ohio Teen USA finalist back in 2001, and that
Okay.
was my first pageant. And then I actually lost four pageants before I ever won a pageant. And then I didn't start winning pageants until 2017.
Hmm.
And so now I have 8 titles to date.
Oh, wow.
And I was fourth in Mrs. Earth USA back in August, and I was the National Ms. American Raw Beauties, the Ms. Pennsylvania National, and it has really helped me in a lot of different ways. I used to be overweight, and I loved myself at being overweight as a plus size model, and I inspired a lot of women to come into the pageant world, regardless of their weight. But then I actually decided that, hey, I'm going to start trying to do other systems and, work on my physical self. And so I've lost, I don't know, 20, 30 pounds, something like that. Yeah. So it's changed my life in a lot of different ways. I've won Best National Gown twice. I won the Best National Gown in Mrs. Earth and Best Intro Video, and I've won Best Personality and Achievement Awards. And, I just, I'm really grateful for all the opportunities.
Mhm.
So, so
Oh,
far,
that's
20 years
fantastic.
now. 20 years I've been doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you certainly have more experience than me because I started last year. So I'm super new,
Nothing to do with
but I'm
experience.
having a good time.
It has nothing to do with experience. I think that I won. The person that won Mrs. Earth had only done 2 pageants, and I've done 13.
Yeah.
So it
hmm
doesn't matter. You could have never
hmm
done one and still win.
Sure. Sure. All right. Good. So, Rachel, this is the part that I love because I get to share my favorite picture of you. And so, this picture is something that you've, shared publicly, obviously, that I found on your social media. And I picked this picture because I feel like you look, you know, beautiful but strong and fierce. And also, I'm really curious about what was happening in this picture. So once you see the picture, the real question is, what was going on here?
Oh, that was when I was in Pittsburgh Fashion Week in October.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Are these pants? Is this a skirt or are they?
That is a design by Mossy Lane,
It's really
and
cool.
yeah, she's an amazing designer. So I also started modeling 20 years ago too.
Hmm.
And I've been on the Pittsburgh Fashion Week Council, and I actually have a license. I've taught modeling for John Casablancas and John Robert Powers and several different agencies. I've been a guest speaker at Barbizon. So modeling was, my primary passion. And, I did some pageants early, and then I did more pageants after 2017 because I was actually too afraid. Pageantry scared me, but I still was trying anyway. So, but anyway, long story short, what was going on in that picture is I was modeling for Mossy Lane, lucky enough to get selected. I've modeled in Pittsburgh Fashion Week. I believe that was my fourth time. And
Hmm.
it's been changed around through different owners. I have a really close relationship with Downtown Community Development Corporation. I got to teach at the Pittsburgh Fashion Summit in February, and um, I'm probably going to end up producing a Miss Pittsburgh Fashion Week.
Oh, cool.
That's something that um, I've been talking about with the nonprofit, and I think that that's going to be something really fun eventually. So maybe
Nice.
I think it's going to be next year, actually, not this year.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Well, you've survived the first category. So now we're going into the Hey You category. So these get a little bit more random. So my first question is, what year was your favorite age? Meaning, I don't know how old you are now and you don't have to tell us, but do you recall a year in your life that you feel like, oh, that was just a great year? That was my favorite age.
I think it keeps getting better with age. I'm 37, so I'm about to be 38. And the older I get, the more I know myself,
Hmm.
happier that I am. I found. In my younger days, I was had a lot more emotionally charged energy, where I was acting on emotion rather than logic. And I
Mm.
think that now that I'm older and I'm more logical, I've also got a wonderful husband now. I was a single mother for 7 years. Well, not necessarily single, but my children's father had them half the time and I had them half the time, and I'm still single. So, when I wasn't, when I had them and when I didn't. So, because I was separated in
Hmm.
2012. And I think that the best years of my life have been since I met my husband.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay. Um, Totally different question. Did you watch Full House when you were younger? Did you ever watch that show?
I loved that show. Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember, there was an episode where Stephanie really wanted to change her name. I think she wanted to change it to Dawn, maybe. And I don't know why, but that episode has stuck with me throughout my life, which inspired the next question. If you had to change your first name for some reason, what would you change it to and why?
My first name would be Victoria.
Oh, okay. How did you come up with that?
I just love that name. I mean, my daughter's name is Vivian, so it's vivacious, victorious. My other daughter's name is Elowin, and that's a little bit different. So Vivian and Elowin, and I just really love the name Victoria. I also really love the name Catherine, um, but I don't like the name Cat. So,
Yeah.
or
I feel like you look more like a Victoria than a Catherine.
right. Well,
I
there's
feel like,
something about that because it's about being victorious, about standing on your own 2 feet,
yeah,
rising above. I really like that name.
yeah, it's a
So,
beautiful name. One of my best friends from second grade through my whole life is named Victoria.
oh,
So, and my father's name is Victor. So I definitely have heart for that name. So good
aw,
choice.
that's
Okay, this may be a little more difficult, but who knows? Maybe you've thought about this. But if you could be any historical figure for one day, who would you be?
Marie Curie.
Okay.
I would be Marie Curie because she did so much exploration, and we actually have solutions and healing treatments for cancer as a result of her research.
Yeah.
And well, it's kind of a toss up between Rachel Carson and Marie Curie. So these two environmentalists, the Rachel Carson being a biologist from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and
Hmm.
then also Marie Curie, just having multiple Nobel Prize wins, and being out on the field and all the work that she did to help the soldiers, and she just really sacrificed her whole entire life for humanity and for her science and her love for science. So a toss up between the two of them.
Wonderful. You're a better person than I am, because when I asked myself that question, the person that came to mind was Zelda Fitzgerald, who was F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife. And I pictured myself going to a particular time in their life when it was the 1920s and they were in New York and they were kind of young and famous and they had all this money, and she was kind of developing flapper culture, and they were drinking champagne and hanging out of taxi cabs and dancing in fountains. And I was like, yeah, I want to be her on the day that she was dancing in the fountain and living at the penthouse at the plaza and just being really glamorous about
I
it.
see her
So
too. That
good
would
on you. You're like, I want to help people. I'm like, I want to drink champagne and dance in the fountain in New York City. Everyone's different.
I want that too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I guess I should have thought of someone a little more helpful, but I was picturing just one day in the life, so I went. You can tell I've been inside for too long because my mind went full like, let's go have a good time. But good answer.
Understand that. I went to West Virginia last week and ate dinner in a restaurant, and it was so amazing. And
Yeah,
food was just okay, but I was just so happy to be out and having eaten something that I didn't have to cook,
for
because I
sure.
was the one that's cooking for months, and
Hmm.
I just want to, go somewhere and have somebody else cook for me.
Yeah, it's a treat. It's a treat.
It
One
really
thing about this whole lockdown situation is just it has really brought to light so many things that we have taken for granted in the past. So many just little things that we had access to every single day that we don't now. And I hope, we all learn and grow from it and really just learn to really squeeze the juice out of every experience we have while we can, because you really don't know when you won't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I miss my church tremendously. I'm able to watch online, thank God.
yeah.
But I really miss being able to go and feel the energy and of my church and my pastor. Um, so that's going to be the first thing that I do whenever I'm
Hmm.
around is go back to church.
Yeah, for sure. All right, good. So, um, you've survived so far. We're now going to the just silliness category. And there's only one of these questions because I would never ask somebody more than one of these because they're just kind of crazy. Um, so, I guess this is somewhat related to the environment. If you could merge together two animals to create one super animal, what would you create?
The honeybee would be the most important one. Obviously, it pollinates the majority of our food, and possibly a wolf,
Hmm.
as a wolf is considered a keystone species in multiple environments. And whenever they eat the elk, it also it influences the brush and different types of species that are around. So if you have wolves combined with bees, I think all of those two species, they impact so many other species.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then you have an overpopulation of elk without wolves, and then that overruns everything else. So um, and also just the strength of the wolf, and then also the daintiness of the bee. It would be a wolf bee, or so I guess we call
Yeah.
it a bee. It
A
would be
bee,
a
a
bee.
wolf,
A bee.
eel. Yeah, we'll work on the name, but yeah, that's that seems like a great animal to have.
Right.
So
Yeah.
thank you for that. Ah, so the guest question this week comes from my husband Brian, and Brian would like to know if you or your husband have started binging a new guilty pleasure type of show during this lockdown time.
We have binged several. Our shows that we are watching or that we have watched are Game of Thrones,
Mhm.
show, and we are now watching The 100. It's about 100 children that have been dropped down from
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. Post-apocalyptic. I love all that post-apocalyptic science fiction stuff. That's my favorite. But yeah, those are the two main ones.
They don't seem like guilty pleasures. Those seem like legitimate shows. So my husband started watching a show called Forged in Fire, and it's a reality competition show with iron workers just making different swords every week. I'm like,
Okay, that's great.
I mean, it doesn't have any drama. It's like a very low key. You just see them make the sword, and that's the end. And he started watching one about glass blowers. And at first, I was kind of hating on that, but I started watching. It was really interesting, the things that people can make with glass. But in quarantine, my guilty pleasure show has been RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh,
I
wow.
had never watched it in my life.
Times, yeah.
Yeah, I never watched it in my life. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, so I started watching it, and I cannot stop watching it.
Yes, it's addictive.
It's so, I can't stop.
I know.
But I find it a little bit,
Life.
yeah, yeah, but I love it. Well, I think it's hilarious, first of all. RuPaul's hilarious. But I find it really inspiring, and I can draw a lot of parallels to pageantry. I mean, some of those contestants, I mean, they live in the pageant world of drag, so not that much of an obvious stretch, but just the fact that the confidence they bring to the stage, the creativity they bring, not being afraid to be themselves for the most part and share their story.
Apologetically themselves.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't feel super comfortable in heels, just it makes my feet hurt. But I think, if this 6'2", like 250-pound man can wear high heels, I think I can do it too. So I find it inspirational.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's so many episodes.
Those gel inserts,
I've tried them. I have weird feet. I don't know. I have weird feet. If I could do the show barefoot in August, I would love to, but that's not an option. So.
How tall are you?
5'6".
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, you're pretty tall. I mean, you kind of have to wear the high heels.
I know.
You don't get away with the kitten ones unless, you could actually wear a dress, a gown with flats if you wanted to.
Yeah. No, I wear them, and I know it's part of the thing, but it's just, and I practice in them, but by the end of that whole day, it hurts so bad. And one of my most vivid memories, being in the Mrs. Colorado pageant last year, was at the end, just standing on stage and just thinking, when can I take these shoes off?
Right.
I couldn't. I was just like, physically, I can't do this anymore.
There's another thing that we call saving our feet. And,
yeah.
That's wearing something cushy on your feet as much as possible in between being on stage.
Yeah.
So if you can, save your feet as much as you can or as much as possible, then.
Yeah, true.
That's what I would do if I were you.
Yeah. I mean, it was my first year, so I was just kind of like, wow, this is so exciting and this is so cool. And I mean, Colorado has a huge pageant. So in the Mrs. Colorado category alone, we had like 35 people. Yeah. And so, yeah, 35 of us. And then we had Miss Colorado, and then we have Wyoming too, which isn't that many, but ultimately there were maybe 60 women on the stage. So our show is long.
Right.
And involved, and it's at the beautiful Ellie Calkins Opera House in Denver. So between being on stage and getting to the changing room, you're going up flights of steps, just back and forth. It was kind of craziness, but I wish I would have saved my feet going up and down the steps. Where were you last year? I needed this advice last year.
Oh, well, I'm here for any kind of advice that you need. I actually train some pageant title holders here in Pittsburgh. So, I give lots of free tips. But yeah, the save your feet one's good, and then the gel inserts, and then if you, I don't know if it's just the pain from the shoes or if it's the walking in them, but honestly, vacuuming with leg weights around your ankle weights.
Okay.
You build up your muscles in your legs.
Interesting.
And then there's also, another way that I teach. I made this up completely, but I'm not going to give you guys an example because it's really funny looking, but it's called the robot walk. And what you do is you're basically stressing all the muscles in your legs all the way from your toes to your mid thighs.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever you do that and you're walking, then it's going to build those muscles up because the problem with people not learning how to walk in heels is really an issue of the strength in the muscles around the ankles and around the feet. So if you're building those up and you're really stressing those and walking around on your tippy toes and all those muscles all the way down, and you just lessen it up a little bit more and a little bit more as you go, then you can really find that sweet spot where you need that strength, but don't go too much or else you end up with the shaky ankles.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. Thank you for that advice.
No problem.
Okay, so here's the last category. This is the quick fire category. And for you, based on your platform, I decided to make it nature related. So I have 4 nature related jokes here.
Okay.
And I'm going to read the beginning of the joke, and I want you to try to guess the punchline.
Oh, no.
What you have to do. No right or wrong answers. I mean, technically there is a right answer, but it's okay. All right. How can you tell the ocean is friendly?
I don't know.
That's okay. All right.
The ocean is friendly because it waves.
That's right. See? You did it. Nice. Okay.
Okay.
See, now you got the gist of it. You're doing great. Why is grass so dangerous?
Why is what?
Why is grass so dangerous?
Got sharp blades?
Close, because it's full of blades. So, good one.
Got it. All right, look at
You're doing great. You're doing good at this. Okay. What did the tree wear to the pool party?
Tree skirt.
Swimming trunks.
A Christmas tree. Oh, I was thinking of a tree skirt, like an actual.
I mean, that works.
Yeah.
That's a good answer, actually.
Oh, thanks.
They said swimming trunks.
Oh, okay. Well, that works. If it's a boy, yeah. Okay.
So here's the.
Now assigning gender to trees.
Yeah. Really. It could go either way.
Right.
All right. Last question. What did the little tree say to the big tree?
No, the only thing that's coming to mind is Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So where he just keeps on giving and he says he loves the tree. So I don't know. I don't know the
kind
answer.
of the opposite. The little tree said to the big tree, "Leave me alone."
Oh, okay.
So opposite.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I did pretty good. 3 out of 4, 3 out of 4.
I'm impressed. I wouldn't have been able to guess those. That was really good.
Aww.
You are a true environmentalist when you can accurately guess the punchline to Earth-related jokes. So you've proved yourself. You're the real deal.
Thank you.
That was the test. All right. Well, you've survived the whole interview. It was super fun talking to you. Is there anything you want to say to the people watching before we go?
Just that, like I said, if I don't win, I hope you do.
Thank you. It's very nice.
I actually predicted who was going to win Mrs. Earth, and she won. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know much about that system, but I want to look it up.
Yeah.
But you gave me something to look into later. I'm sorry?
It's called one of the big 4. So there are 4 major pageant systems in the world. There's the Miss America, which goes on to Miss World, Miss USA, which goes on to Miss Universe, Miss Earth, and then there's Miss International. So those are the top 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Rachel, so much. I guess I'll be seeing you in person. I mean, assuming everything goes well with this whole COVID situation, I'll be seeing you in person this summer.
Absolutely. August 15th. It'll be exciting.
Is that when it is? I don't even know. It is.
Right now, tentatively August 15th. So.
Gotcha. I'm waiting for the official written thing that says this is the date.
Yeah, I'm really jealous about you living so close to the venue. So that means that all your friends and family are going to be there, and I'm going to be there with my husband, and that's it. Like,
Well, I mean, honestly, though, I don't know. We won't know in Philadelphia if legally we can even have a bunch of people in the audience. So we may be playing to kind of a skeleton crowd, but we'll see.
maybe they can move it to one of the yellow counties.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, anyway, we could sit and talk all day, but I'm going to let you go. So thank you so much. It was nice to meet you for the first time.
I appreciate it very much.
All right, bye.
Bye.